Welcome to SMFMS Bookends, a satellite show for Save Me From My Shelf, coming out every week after our proper episode. On this show, we read listener letters, answer questions, include extra analysis and episode outtakes, and have a brief chat about the things we're currently reading, watching, or playing. Hello, you are listening to Save Me From... What's the name of our show?
Save Me From My Shelf Bookends.
That's the one. My baby has gone down the plug hole over here is Daniel.
What is that?
That's an old music hall song.
Alright, so I need to think of a vaudeville song.
I'm really surprised you haven't heard that one.
I don't know much about music hall. I don't like popular art.
Oh, that's right. Okay. It's beneath you.
Is you is, or is you ain't. My baby is Abby.
Nice. So, by way of general updates, I know that this is one Bookends episode too late, but I did actually just learn a factoid about Ivanhoe. So in that scene where De Bracy wears those pointy-toed little medieval shoes like a jerk and he goes to seduce Rowena, he's like, chicks are really into this look. Mm-hmm. Apparently, those shoes were ridiculed by poets and condemned by the clergy because they considered them a sign of both effeminacy and homosexuality, and, weirdly, they also hated them because the shoes were attractive to women. So they're like, you're a gay little lady-pleasing slut if you wear them. And it's like, what?
That's like all the American conservatives these days, like, oh, if you fancy Taylor Swift, you're gay. That's what they say, don't they, to other men?
Yeah, it's really...
incels.
Like a classically attractive woman, yeah.
The other thing I was going to say about those pointy shoes, it was like a kind of aristocrat thing to wear, wasn't it? Like it was a certain kind of young gun, Bullingdon Club type. And there was one of those battles in Switzerland where they kicked the aristocracy out, including the Habsburgs. All the Habsburg troops were knights were wearing those shoes, and then they won. Apparently the battlefield was just like full of these big floppy clown shoes of all these dead Habsburgs. So there you go.
Yeah, so there's a really big like historical fashion debate happening at the moment where they can't tell where these shoes originated. It seems like there have just always been kind of versions of pointed toe shoes for ages. There was a Norman version for Norman knights. There was sort of an Anglo-Saxon version. And the fashion historian Ruth Wilson has at least traced part of this trend back to William Rufus's courtier, a man named Richard the Horny. So I don't know if that's because of his shoes, because they're pointy and horned.
Have you ever seen Leningrad Cowboys Go America?
No.
Is that Finnish director Aki Kaurismäki or something like that?
Aki Kaurismäki.
It's something like that. I don't remember what it is, but I'm sure people who listen know. But it's like a kind of funny road movie about this Finnish band, and they have these big quiffs and big winkle pickers. So if you're interested in pointy shoes, maybe give that a look. It's sort of like the Blues Brothers, but Finnish.
Well, anyway, these shoes were so controversial that they were intermittently outlawed over the medieval period. Would you wear them?
Yeah.
Would you?
I definitely would wear that, yeah.
I feel like you would trip a lot.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the thing,
yeah.
You're a little on the clumsy side.
This is I don't know about those shoes in particular, but I suppose all sorts of difficult to maneuver in fashions are a sign of social class, aren't they? Because it's like, I don't need to walk around, I don't need to be good with my hands. That's why I have really long nails and pointy shoes, and I'm wearing a big brocade fat suit, or whatever it is people used to do.
Bustle, I think, is the thing.
No, this is just something I've made up, like a giant brocade fat suit that I can't do anything in this, but it doesn't matter because I don't need to work.
Apparently there was a version of this that had a practical element, and that was on Norman knights' armor on their boots, because it helped them stay in their stirrups.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah, you could probably kick somebody.
Well, yeah, but I think that's the only one. Yeah, for the most part, I think it's more fashion oriented.
Winkle pickers, of course.
What is a winkle picker, please?
That's what those shoes are. The kind of modern version, like teddy boys and stuff wear them. Do you not know what teddy boys are?
Not really.
Why am I like all my points of reference are like the 50s British youth culture?
Is that...
You don't know teddy boys, and they kind of wear like that sort of... They wear like a kind of velour coat. They're a bit like... It's like a zoot suit type thing, but from England. And they wear like a kind of bootlace tie and have a big quiff. And they wear winkle... Or do they wear brothel creepers?
You were just f***ing making words up.
You've never heard brothel creepers?
You are full of
That's funny. Well, anyway, a winkle picker is a shoe with a really pointy toe. But I think it's a joke name. I don't think you were actually meant to pick winkles with them.
I think anyone in the Screenwriters Guild for an American TV show trying to spoof what British people sound like, they could not have scripted this better.
You've never heard winkle? That's funny.
Winkle pickers are brothel chompers?
No, brothel creepers. So brothel creepers are these like shoes with like really big soles, like really chunky shoes. And then, as I say, winkle pickers are really pointy shoes.
You got a third one you want to throw on there?
I think is that it? Listeners, write in and tell me about other kinds of popular names for shoes.
Isn't there a hairstyle called a duck's ass?
That's the quiff. So at the back it's parted in such a way, or at the front the quiff looks like a duck's. Maybe that's the point, that the quiff looks like a duck's ass. Like it looks like the tail.
Is it like Kaniki and Grease? Is it like that? Like
they are kind of like greasers is the point.
Okay.
But British greasers.
Could we do your hair like that one?
I would love to do that. Yeah.
I feel like I could make it work.
My hair's not long enough, I don't think, but I think there's a lot of it. It's pretty long right now, but it's not long enough.
Please regale us again with how much hair you have.
But I need some quite strong product is the thing, because my hair is obviously very, very lustrous and thick, and so it'd be hard to keep it in place. But
it's like a bear pelt.
2 combs. Wow. In the main episode, you talk about things I don't understand them, and then in the bookends,
I like this.
The tables are turned.
No, I'm really enjoying this. I want to know what else you can
muster.
Teach me about.
That's it. I think that might be it.
Okay, on this note, which is, I guarantee you've been cut down from like the 40 minutes we just talked about brothel creepers and twinkly winkle pickers.
Now you say it, you're like, yeah, you're obviously right. Those sound super English. I couldn't imagine an American say either.
Ridiculous.
Heavens, brothel creepers! Oh, get spooks! That's what you're like.
That does. It sounds exactly like me.
Anyway, some letters now. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, should we maybe cut to our listener letters, please?
So, here's a letter.
From?
Coleman.
Is it Coleman Domingo? We were just admiring your Golden Globes outfit.
Your Coleman's mustard-coloured suit.
Oh, maybe that's why he wore it. Anyway.
Hi, Abby and Daniel.
Hi.
My name is Coleman.
Domingo?
And I am a new fan of the podcast. I first heard you both on Betwixt the Sheets with Kate Lister, which is continuing to pay dividends, that single guest spot, and thought you two were hilarious.
Thank you, we think so too.
Which became ever more evident as I started listening to your podcast. I love the way you both cut through the pompous idolatry of these classic texts, thereby revealing how ridiculous some of them are. Let's face it, some of them are absolutely ludicrous.
I am fully in agreement. Which one is the most ludicrous, Coleman, in your opinion?
Well, the letter continues.
Oh, sorry.
In a vein that kind of answers your question. Speaking of ludicrous, I just listened to your episode on Pamela and was surprised when you mentioned the anti-Pamela works that were published shortly after Richardson's novel, that you didn't mention Joseph Andrews by Henry Fielding. We mentioned Shyamala.
We mentioned Shyamala. To be honest, I mean, that was so long ago, we might have just missed that one. I feel like we mentioned it and it got cut. So
I've read it, so...
Yeah, I haven't read that, but I have read Shyamala. But an awful, awful lot, especially of analysis and background, gets left on the editing room floor just because, like, we're trying to keep it brisk.
It's an outrageous work that cynically illustrates the absurdity of Pamela and skewers the supposed virtues of the novel. I would love it if you did an episode on it. Or, because it's a more well-known novel, the very anti-Pamela novel, Tom Jones, also by Fielding. I often think we should do Tom Jones, but also the problem is intentionally funny books are hard for us to work with because we don't want to be out-funnied.
I have thought about doing Tom Jones for quite some time, and we are running out of 18th century texts.
That's true.
We've done a lot of the big ones.
I always think about, because you know how Henry Fielding was like a judge or something, or we worked with the Bow Street Runners. I always think that would be a really cool TV historical cop show where Henry Fielding is a kind of judge in 18th century London.
And also writing. And
that might come into it. Maybe at the end of every episode in a kind of Murder, She Wrote way, he would type up. And then a funny sex thing happened.
Oh, yeah, it's a 18th century castle, is what you're telling me.
There we go.
There we go.
Anyway, please keep up the amazing work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Coleman.
Thanks for your letter, Coleman. Here's another one from Anna, repeat offender, one of our patrons.
And I think her name is Anna, as I've told you for like the 5th time.
I think in England, in British English, we would pronounce it like that. I don't think we would say Anna.
Anna, can you settle this debate for us?
I'm sure it's true, but I just don't think we don't have that sound in British English. Like we wouldn't say taco.
Okay. Do you call her Ana de Armas?
I even know who that is, so probably.
I know you know her because she was Boobs McGee in 007. She was the nurse in Knives Out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know her name. But yeah, I probably would call her Anna.
But you know her boobs.
I think I would call her Anna. Anyway, quick note for Daniel's Favell comment today. So that was from Rebecca.
Okay.
There's that guy called Favell, and I said that he might live in a favela in an allusion to the ongoing Portuguese language rift that's, I don't know, going on. Anyway.
You're trying to make them love you more than they already do, and that's just not possible.
Well, it seems like they didn't like this. Well, at least one of them didn't. So, hopefully the Lusophone crowd doesn't live in favelas, because that would possibly mean, might be one of those nice favelas, that many of them are below the line of poverty and disenfranchised and exposed to daily violence. But yay for sardines, the Portuguese do love them. So, sort of mixed bag there, sort of one of those like sort of sandwich, appraisal things. Like,
it's an open-faced sandwich.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning sardines, but favelas are no laughing matter. Well, that's me told, isn't it? Wow.
I'm just saying that your dreadful toadying up to the Lusophones may...
Backfiring.
It may be backfiring. Be aloof, Daniel. Like I am. Coy. Ice princess.
Here's one from Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hello.
You've written before.
Repeat offender, Lindsay, who's writing about Rebecca. So, I just really enjoyed listening to your Rebecca episode. I was one of the people pestering you to cover Rebecca, so thank you. As a big fan of queer subtext and queer interpretations in literature, I feel like there were a few that you missed.
Very possible.
Prepare for popping champagne corks.
Yes, ma'am. Because we've just had some fairly straight books.
Yeah,
back to
that's
back.
true, actually, yeah.
So we needed this, Lindsay. This is a remedial tonic to balance on my black bile or whatever.
So, Mrs. Danvers is clearly in love with Rebecca, as you mentioned. But I would argue that the unnamed narrator is also half in love with Rebecca.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I totally buy that.
I think we did talk about that idea of Rebecca as this sort of psychosexual presence, intimidating presence, but I suppose that's less. And
we talked about her in a sort of non-ethical monogamy or ethical polyamory or something like that. We made some sort of joke about.
Yeah, it was a funny joke.
We made a joke about them being in some sort of unholy polycule. You're right. We alluded to it, but we didn't say it explicitly, and it definitely deserves a champagne cork pop.
Next, I also think Frank's devotion to Maxim, his willingness to do anything. Not everything, for him, even cover up a murder, as well as his euphemistic quote-unquote bachelor status, all clearly indicate that Frank is in love with Maxim.
I totally buy that too. Like,
Yeah.
there's a bit of a thing he has with the narrator, and you kind of wonder, should you guys be together? But you're right that he is dedicated to Maxim in a way that really mirrors the narrator's odd relationship with Rebecca.
It's one of those great texts that has these plays of parallels, but the parallels work in different directions that would seem mutually exclusive but aren't.
Yeah, we did have more in that episode about Frank and his bachelorhood and stuff, but that did get cut.
Then, here's a new queer reading. Then there's both the narrator and Maxim being in love with Manderley, which is practically a character in itself. Does being in love with a building fall under the queer umbrella?
Absolutely. I have French kissed the odd edifice.
All right. Edifice complex. So on behalf of my people, I'm officially saying yes.
I dig all of it. Thank you. I needed this. It restored my electrolytes.
It could go a bit both ways, because I did talk about this, that Maxim's obsession with Manderley was this kind of heteronormative presence in his life that forced him into marriage and forced him to try and propagate. So it could go the other way, but anyway, whatever. Anyway, sorry for the extra long message. Wasn't that long. I appreciated it. Perhaps I should enroll in one of your courses and write an essay on the abundance of queerness in Rebecca.
Oh, I would love that. Hey, we teach a distance learning master's. You can join our master's cohort.
Is a good one.
I don't actually know where you're based, so you can also come do an undergrad here, or in-person master's, or be my PhD student. I don't know your life.
Thank you once again for an excellent episode, and I'm looking forward to our next reading group.
Hooray!
So, thanks for that, Lindsay.
What else we got in the mailbag?
This is from Kathy. I love your podcast. I have been binge listening while I take my daily walk.
Oh, that's nice.
Constitutional. I especially like your voices.
Said no one ever, Kathy. I love that you said that, but I think you're full of shit.
Yeah. Is that specifically about my funny voices, or is that just about the actual quality of the timbre of our voices?
I hate listening to our voices when we edit these.
I like hearing myself talk.
That's a different thing.
So, they are great, and add so much to my enjoyment of what you have to say.
Oh, I bet she's talking about your voice, like Daniel, Shut up, you twerp.
One of my favourite books, this will be good for voices, one of my favourite books is A Confederacy of Dunces.
I've never read that, but I've meant to.
I've got it on the bookcase. I would love to hear your take on it. Keep up the good work. I would love to leave a review, but I wasn't quite sure where to go.
Ooh, that's your area, isn't it? That's
I don't know. Just wherever you get your podcast, I'm sure they have a review facilitating thing.
It must be on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts.
They all do.
Yeah.
Spotify has. You can't leave reviews, but you can leave ratings.
Yeah, I'm really sorry we can't direct you more clearly. We don't really know. We're not tech people.
We're more Eloy than Morlock. Next. There's a joker. There's a bloody joker.
Oh, who is this? Who's this?
This is one from Ali.
Okay.
Who's quite an established listener, isn't he?
Oh, Ali Pitts.
Ali Pitts, yes. Dear Louise Brooks and Stan Laurel. Who's who in that?
Take your pick, friend.
I was a bit offended by this because I'm obviously meant to be Stan Laurel, right? Mm-hmm. Why either you should be Oliver Hardy, or why can't I be someone like debonair, like Cary Grant?
Take it up with Ali.
I have got the Stan Laurel energy, I think. So yes. I was like, ooh, you know me. Anyway, long-time Twitterer, first-time emailer here. Loved the inaugural Bookends episode, and I'm so pleased to hear that Daniel introduced Abby to The Passion of Joan of Arc and that Abby liked it.
Oh, that was great.
It's really good, yeah. If I asked politely... I'm just looking if there actually is a polite ask.
I think that is the polite.
Oh, that is it? Okay. Please, would you consider mentioning the episode of Media Evil? This is a plug. I've been roped into a plug. I did actually listen to this, and I enjoyed it. Anyway, I'll carry on.
Ooh.
Media Evil, a medieval pop culture podcast on that very film that I guested on a while back. Would it help if I mentioned that the host of that show is a medieval historian at Rhodes College, TN? Is that Tennessee? Tennessee, yeah. Is such interdisciplinary shenanigans permissible on Bookends, or is it still too early to tell?
Oh, absolutely. Let's throw that out there in honor of Justine and our recent Ivanhoe episode.
It was good, and this I can't remember the woman's name now, but she played that kind of Justine role. But so yeah, thanks for that, Ali. And now here's an email that's a follow-up to our last book group, Patreon patrons book group, Select Club of Like-Minded Readers. So this is from Patty, who has also written it before. She had some further comments on Poor Things, which we read. Some very good comments, additional points.
I was really impressed by these. I love that we keep the book group going through email sometimes.
You get that esprit d'escalier in those situations, so it's nice to kind of write back.
But that's a sign of a good book as well, when people just can't stop thinking about it and talking about it. That delights me.
Well, time to stop complimenting Patty and time to receive a bit of praise ourselves. That's what she says. Thanks again for a fun discussion. To me, your willingness to include your listeners from around the world, and it's a very around the world group, isn't it, in an up-close and virtual way speaks very well about your approach as educators and makes me glad for your students.
That is really nice, Patty, because, as many of you know, and I said this in my email to you, times are surprisingly tough in academia, especially in the arts. I think we should all be really concerned by how many arts and humanities programs are closing, not just around the country, but around the world. And so it's really nice to have a little bit of, positive feedback and reassurance in light of that. So I've seen some people say some really astute things on Twitter about this, and it's that if the arts and humanities were not so valuable, first of all, why would we have people spending billions trying to get a machine to replicate it cheaper? They wouldn't even bother if it didn't have a value. And also, if it doesn't have value, why then do we have politicians who are trying to reduce it for everyone except their own children?
Exactly. I was going to say, it's not about economics at all, is it? Despite their language, it's about power, and it's about retaining certain aspects of power for oneself and cutting it off from others.
Yes, exactly. So encourage everyone you can to study this stuff, because people really, really don't want you to. So thank you everyone for writing in.
Thank you.
We had a really good group of letters today. It was nice. Sometimes the inbox looks a little barren, but at the moment, it was lovely and full. Now, I think it's time to do a little bad Goodreads catch-up session. and today we are catching up on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, a text that we did not do a bad Goodreads for in our original recording. The story was mostly about a married woman trying to seduce Gawain into committing adultery? It's meant to be adultery. Kind of disappointing, as I wanted an adventure book. 2 stars, just for the sake of Gawain staying strong.
That older woman is the adventure.
Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. 2 stars. Yes, ma'am. That is the title of the book, isn't it? PG-13 for sensuality, PG for violence. 2 stars. Did you want more or less? That's the whole review. I don't understand. What's the problem? The cover of the book. It shows the axe 2 times as big as Gawain. But, like, how is Gawain supposed to be able to use that axe? I understand that it was, quote, light enough for any man to use. So, like, why don't you make it smaller? Also, how would Gawain go about using an axe if it's, like, twice his height? Is he gonna set it up like a seesaw and start jumping on it? 1 star. That was about the cover art. You have told us nothing about the text. What are you on? That is a ludicrous comment. I'm not sure I've read this. 2 stars. And now, some more analysis and bloopers from our episode on the Time Machine.
I don't want to actually check the book right now, but I know you said they're all men, and they obviously are all men, but we've in the past talked about the ambiguity of terms like this, where you don't actually know if it is a man or a woman. I was wondering, do they all have pronouns? Is it always like the provincial mayor, he was there, and...
Ooh, bloody pronoun police here, everybody.
Well, I'm just wondering, because we've talked about that the other way, where it was like, well, actually, everyone assumes it's a man, it could be a woman, whereas this is such a male environment, and you're obviously right that it is all men, but I was wondering if it's such a given that actually some of the figures are not ever gendered. We'll find out, won't we? Well, we won't find out. I'm not going to ever look it up. Okay, anyway.
The book is sitting right in front of you.
Yeah, I'm going to flick through for every he. Anyway, he. The funniest gender, isn't it? Wait, you can't say that actually, can you? Because
women aren't funny.
Because it might sound like I'm saying that, yeah.
You got really annoyed when the student said you're the smart one and I'm the funny one. That really...
Yeah, I was both, yeah.
That rankled you.
But it rankled you too.
Fair, but from a sexist perspective in the other way. I'm allowed to be rankled.
You can be rankled on an individual level while also appreciate that there's a structural bias.
No, yesterday was International Women's Day, and you pushing back on this in any way is misogyny. Sorry.
Friday wasn't it?
Oh, you correcting me in any way is also misogyny.
Okay. We didn't even want to do this, did we? Didn't the listeners vote for this? We wanted to do War of the Worlds or something, or didn't you want to do Dr. Moreau? I wanted to do War of the Worlds, and you wanted to do...
Yeah, this was an audience pick, wasn't it?
But I'll tell you what, I thought I'd read this. I haven't even read it before.
Had you not?
Yeah, taught it as well. I've seen 2 films.
Daniel!
But, yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Well
done, H.G. Wells. Wells done. Carry on.
So his work was very commercially successful, which meant he got a lot of backlash from the sort of great literary... Oh, f***'s sake. Really? That's it? You done? Okay.
It's like the tripods. If you can travel through time, your mission needs to be to go back in time and have sex with as many of your ancestors as possible.
Why?
I just again think it's like all bets are off. You go in the future, you kill everyone. You go back in time, you really push the time paradox and depravity.
So would you do that for the procreation purposes?
No, it's just sheer perversity.
Just to see if women in the 12th century shagged better?
I think, and men, it would have to be everybody. All my ancestors. Okay. Charlemagne.
Genghis Khan.
Yeah. I'm imagining it's a bit like Doctor Who or something, or more like Groundhog Day. Doctor Who goes around being nice, doesn't he, and like solving people's problems. But really, if you had this sort of supreme power, you would end up just doing ridiculous things like he does in Groundhog Day. You'd get bored, and it would end up just with the pure depravity. I
am really digging this new slutty Daniel. This is a great phase for you. I wish you all the best in your time travel endeavors. Your pox is going to be off the charts.
Yeah.
If you could have somebody not related to you, let's say, have sex with any historical figure, Who would you have sex with?
I think Mussolini, actually.
We have read his Bodice Ripper. I don't think he knew which way was up, friend.
I just thought it'd be funny to say Mussolini.
Okay, I'm just saying.
And I said it in the last episode about Ivanhoe, that Ivanhoe does this, but not explicitly. But it has the narrator saying, like, I'll translate for you from Old French. So that's almost kind of necessary once you've got this element of time travel, that you have to have this kind of a strong narrator, so to speak.
These were good companion pieces.
Yeah, I think they really are.
They both played with ideas of time and adventure fiction. There are women named Rowena and Weena.
Yeah. No, I really think they do go together in a lot of ways.
Class groups and miscegenation ideas.
Yeah. It really made me think about the role of, because I thought the obvious thing is that Gulliver's Travels and stuff like that inform science fiction, but it really made me think about the role of historical fiction in the development of science fiction. That sort of attention to particularity, and I feel like the kind of narrative need to kind of self-justify that you obviously don't get so much with Gulliver's Travels, if that makes sense.
But then also this idea with historical fiction authors, I'm creating this whole world that I'm kind of speculating.
That's what I'm saying. It's a fantasy, but it's a fantasy that tries to reinforce itself through realist devices, and both science fiction and historical fiction do that.
Yeah, but like the logical conclusion of that is, okay, well, we've done all these time periods we know. What about then turning this?
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Both of them deal with time. Yeah. He's like prepares to get one of these matches, these loose matches, from his pocket out, strike it, freak out the Morlocks. You never guess what happens.
What? He's lost the matches or something?
No, they're safety matches. They're the damnable kind, or whatever he calls it, that can only be struck with the box. This is why we don't want safety matches. The odd forest fire is a small price to pay for.
So if you guys don't know what safety matches were, those were a huge development in health and safety in the Victorian era, because it used to be that they made matches that would just catch on fire over the slightest thing.
You could strike it on your stubble, couldn't you? I do.
You could, yeah, it's very manly when you do that.
Yeah.
I'm on a Twitter. No, I'm on Twitter when you do that.
Yep, okay.
There were stories about how, like, if you accidentally left the old style matches out on a window and a sunbeam hit them, they would burst into flame. I think Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, his trousers caught on fire in the middle of a cricket game because he had a thing of matches in his pocket. And
I think that's a lie.
The friction... this happened all the time.
That was a joke, because your pants go on fire when you lie. I'm really thinking, the Eloy really reminded me of something, but I don't know what, but like disgusting little... They seem like something from like one of those like 80s, like films that I don't like to watch, like The Goonies and Labyrinth and like Garbage Pail Kids movie. And like I really imagine them looking all like disgusting little...
Yeah.
And you want to just kill them, kick them over.
Did you ever see The 10th Kingdom? I doubt you would have.
I know the one you mean. Is the one where New York is a parallel universe or something?
Yes,
yeah.
And there's a singing ring that has this creepy little quivery voice, and it looks like a pearl-headed baby. Yeah. And it's horrible. Like, that's what I envision them as.
Or like what sits in Star Wars, those little bears, these little teddy bears.
The hardcore Paddingtons, the
Viet Paddingtons.
The Waka Wakas, what the f*** are they called?
Yeah, what are they called?
Normally
I just pretend not to know what things in Star Wars are called, but this time I can't actually remember. Whatever. You just want to kick them over, is the point.
What are they? The Ewoks! The Ewoks!
Ripped it off.
Eloy?
Ewok? Ebagum.
Wow, Daniel, we really got off track in that last episode, didn't we?
Yeah. Off time. We'll never get that time back. You might say it's time to stop.
Forced, said the Boston Globe. Cheap comedy, said the New York Times.
Times.
Daniel, damn it. And now, for our resuscitation of the Bad Sex Awards. And before any of you proceed, especially if there are children in the car listening to this is not safe for work, so I would recommend you venture ahead probably, what, Daniel, like 2 or 3 minutes? So, this award started in 1993 to help find the worst, most embarrassing sex scenes in literature. We did 1993 last time. This episode, we are doing 1994, where the winner was Philip Hook from his book, The Stonebreakers. And this is a book about art historians and a masterpiece that was presumed destroyed in the bombing of Dresden. didn't really think there was a huge potential for weird sex, and yet this was the winning passage. Would you do us the honor, the great honor, of being our resident pervert?
Sure, yeah. So, quote, his hand set out on a magnificently daring journey across limitless expanses of thrillingly unfamiliar flesh, exulting in the possession of unknown territory. He traced an exploratory path from the nape of her neck, over her breasts, under her straining buttocks. Soon they were no longer bodies on a bed. They became some mad mobile sculpture, manipulated this way and that in the throes of its own creation. Two forms in search of positions of perfect linkage.
This sounds like somebody who gets turned on every time they see that Pathé Mobile logo.
Yeah. That's the end. Silly.
That was silly. That was not as ridiculous as I wanted it to be. And I was wondering, to sort of maybe oomph up this section a little bit, are there any authors that you have read who have sort of revealed their kinks via repeated unpleasant sex scenes?
I know that you have an answer to this. I don't think I do. I don't think I read that many rude books.
But that's the thing, the books themselves...
I know, I'm just joking. I know they're not really rude.
It's a normal book, and then there's a sex scene in there, and you read enough of this person's books, and you're like,
Sometimes, I'm just thinking of that thing, who's that person who did that? I know it's been like discredited in musicology or something, but there's that guy that wrote that analysis of Beethoven saying the repeated false climaxes in Beethoven's symphonies is somehow symbolic or indicative of his own sexual frustration.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think I've definitely encountered that in like people's writing style and their narrative style. I'm kind of like, I've not necessarily indexed that to sexuality, but I've definitely been like, something weird's going on here. Anyway, what was yours?
There were two authors. One is Ken Follett, who wrote Pillars of the Earth and loads of other things. And he has sort of, over time, revealed himself to be into women with very large breasts and a very untamed pubic area. My dude likes a full 70s bush.
Okay.
And so it's you see that enough. Like, that's the thing he focuses on, and you're just like, But the one that I have noticed, and it's so creepy, it's an author who, I think he's dead now, who I hate read every chance I get, and that's Wilbur Smith, and he writes all these really trashy adventure books about ancient Egypt, and every time I go on holiday to a country where people aren't going to know what this book is, I absolutely bring one. But he has a super weird kink for very old, creepy, ugly men with giant penises and very, very young women, bordering on, like, sometimes girls. It's gone as young as 13. And I'm just like, sir, please stop.
And this is
my hate
you're just
read.
chuckling on the beach with that.
You assume I would ever go on a beach, which I never do. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Wilbur Smith is a real pervert, and it's just, you can always expect when that's on my hate list bingo of like, ooh, great, creepy sex scene.
See, I think that's the problem. I think there's a kind of genre fiction thing. I don't think I read enough genre fiction.
So, let's move on to some general questions or points that are related to our time machine episode. So, what is your favorite time travel book or film?
Groundhog Day?
Is it?
Maybe.
I thought you didn't like the sort of mean 80s stuff.
It's 90s.
Okay, I thought you didn't like mean 90s stuff either.
I think it's 90s stuff has that, is slightly burnished with niceness.
Okay.
I like Groundhog. I think Groundhog Day is mean.
Okay.
It's a good film.
Well, just at least because he starts out as so any Bill Murray comedy vehicle from that time is gonna...
Well, it is I know he did Scrooged, but it is a kind of Scrooge narrative as well, isn't it? About a guy being cosmically redeemed. What about you?
Somebody had written in about this before, but I really love the Octavia Butler novel Kindred.
Yes, that is very good.
Because
that's a good answer, not a silly answer.
Well, that uses time travel to debate other big questions, not just like, oh, if you had to go back in time, would you shag your granddad, or would you, would you kill baby Hitler or something like this? This is dealing with much more significant issues of like generational trauma and complicity.
Yeah. It's really good for
it's
that.
Really good.
It's a very, really clever book.
So, what is your favorite or least favorite time travel cliche.
I don't know what I feel about this, but have you ever played any of the Monkey Island games? In the fourth one, Escape from Monkey Island, there's this bit where you go in this swamp. There's some kind of time loop and you meet yourself in there, and you have to do everything that other character does, the future self does, in order to not to cause a paradox. And it's really annoying and boring. So I suppose time travel paradoxes can be boring, is what I was thinking.
Trying to unravel the paradox, I think that can be mentally exhausting. You know what I mean? Sometimes it gets tangled in its own logic.
Well, yeah, that's what the other thing about time travel paradoxes. If it really entailed what you say, then none of this would have happened at all anyway. So I know it's just fantasy, but also you can't dwell too heavily on the paradox because that defeats the point of the narrative.
Yeah.
The narrative, like Kindred, it needs to be orchestrated to do something else. What about you?
So I have a favorite and a least favorite, and they're related. So the thing that I hate is when people from the past travel into the future and they go, oh, what is this mysterious thing here? When it's something they absolutely would have had in their own time. And this is the one flaw in the otherwise flawless Hocus Pocus, where they don't know what a road was. They were from 1693 Salem. They absolutely had some form of even paved roads. Right?
Stuff, yeah.
But a favorite time trope is when an author plays with this, so they know what's, like, the time traveler knows what something is, but they don't quite understand the intricacies of how it's been upgraded. So there's this great bit in, do you know the Malcolm McDowell movie Time After Time?
No.
And he plays a time-traveling H.G. Wells.
Oh, right.
Actually, who's sort of...
To give it a watch?
Yeah, he's bumped into the late 70s or early 80s, and he's trying to figure out what the plastic laminate on a McDonald's table is, and it's just a really nice little moment. He's not going, what is this thing? This cannot be a table. He's just going, what's that made out of? Because there was a really ridiculous TV show a few years back called Sleepy Hollow. I doubt you watched it,
no.
but yeah. There was one really nice moment in it where Ichabod Crane is now brought to the future, and he's given a gun because they have to fight the bad guys. And he knew what a gun was, and he knows how to fire it, and there's no issue with that. He just doesn't realize that guns can hold more than one shot. So he fires one bullet and then throws the gun away, and they're like, why'd you do that? And, like, I thought that was a really realistic moment. So, if you could travel to any time period, assuming that you were wealthy, and you're in whatever dominant racial group or whatever that would keep you safe, where would you go?
Can we also do it like if it was the time machine in the time machine, and you were just different episodes in Birmingham history?
Sure, if you want.
Because I'm thinking...
Oh my god, you boring bastard.
I'm just thinking, though, you mentioned Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
Washington Irving lived here, didn't he? So maybe it'd be cool to go back to the 1820s. If it was about being able to go anywhere, I suppose you got to go somewhere just completely alien, haven't you? Like the Aztecs or something, or you know, that like mysterious city that was built by nomads in Turkey from like 10,000 BC or something like that.
Yeah.
Just go there and
You go extreme with it.
I think you've got to, really, haven't you? Just because this is in Peep Show, isn't it? But when Jeremy just goes, yeah, I think I'll go to the 60s. And he's like, you just go to the 60s. It's like just people watching the telly. They're like, everything you know about it. It's exactly the same. Anyway, whatever. These are my thoughts. I share them, and now I stop. What about you, then?
I mean, you know I have a real soft spot for being a sort of bright young thing in the 1920s, but I do not want to do cocaine. And I like being asleep by 9:30.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Roman Republic, 1st century BC. I look amazing in a headdress. I would be worshipped as a natural blonde. I would love for people to call me Domina. And I can just ride around town on a litter of cushions all day carried by a bunch of strapping himbos.
Yeah.
It's the perfect way to be both fancy and lazy at the same time. So Daniel, what are you currently reading, watching, playing? What media are you taking in?
I read a book, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. I can't remember what the guy's name was now. He had an Italian name. It was an Italian crime novel. It was called Equal Danger. It was very short, so I thought, I'll just read that. It was very good, but it was a lot harder work than I expected. It was a bit like Franz Kafka meets...
George Jetson.
More like Chinatown or something, like where you realise you've been sewn up in something that you can't control, and it's like it's not a satire, but it's like an indictment of Italian corruption. And
That's stressful.
what about you then?
I just watched The Drunken Master. That is a kung fu movie from 1978. It's Jackie Chan's big break. I think that was one of his first films, if not his very first film.
Break.
Cute.
Karate chopping. That was what, for the listener.
But yeah, it's about him being taken on as an apprentice by this old drunken master who can only fight if he's drunk. I'm not the first person to say this, but in kung fu movies, they're kind of like porn, where in porn you can only go, 2 minutes before you have to have a sex scene. In kung fu, you can only go 2 minutes before you have to have another fight. And I was so impressed because every fight scene, and there were so many of them, everyone was so distinct.
What, and you mean in terms of the style of fighting?
The style of fighting, the props they use, just everyone takes on a totally different character.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wow, this is somebody fighting in a totally different style and with a different psychology. The fight choreography was so good because it's so fast, but every 3 moves or so there was a joke. It's a really funny movie, and I'm endlessly impressed.
Yep.
How are you bearing up under the heat and under the long recording session?
I got tired.
I can see you fading in real time.
Yeah, really?
You're like Marty McFly flickering in and out, so I have to cut this short and revive him with maybe tea and a biscuit. Alright, thanks guys. We will be back in a few weeks with a new episode.
Thanks for listening to Save Me From My Shelf. Our music is The Overture to Don Giovanni by Mozart, and cover art is by Catherine Wu. Our thanks to Aston University's Centre for Critical Inquiry into Society and Culture for funding the startup of this podcast. Contact us at savemefrommyshelf@gmail.com or at SMFMS_podcast on Twitter. And do not, I'm going to remind you, do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Do not forget. Thank you.